Maybe we need to reevaluate that. Meanwhile, they're like flagrant.
Julia, thank you.
Started. Thanks very much for coming, everybody. Again, my name is Chris Murphy. I'm the chairman of the committee here with Rob Case as a vice chair and Megan Riley as co-vice chair. Probably know everybody else, I would think. I think I'm the newest guy here. So. First off, we will start with public comment. I have the public comment list in front of me. And as usual, we would ask that you keep your comments at or less than 5 minutes. So we'll kick it right off with Ricky Thompson.
Ricky Thompson, 194 Plain Road. Good evening. I have a simple request more than a comment. I would like to ask that when you speak tonight, that you speak up, because quite often it's difficult hearing the conversations that are going on, and I realize it's sometimes you're just speaking to each other and what have you, but if you could really try and speak up so that the audience can hear you, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else would. Thank you.
I'll make a point of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That took 11 seconds. Well done. Joe Texera.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Texera, and I. Where's the mic?
Actually, the microphone's in the room. I'll pick it up.
Oh, okay.
He's going to talk loud from there.
You just have to speak.
Okay. All right. I just have a few points tonight. I'm going to be talking about hope and encouragement. I am hoping that this committee has been working with RIDE from the state to come up with another plan for the school. In other words, what they were proposing was probably go with a smaller footprint and add a third floor. Now, we all know from past history that Providence built an elementary school for approximately $43 to $44 million with 94,000 square feet. So there is an opportunity. We've already spent $1.6 million. So if we have to spend another $100,000 or $200,000, let's do it, because we want to do this once and get it right. Now, when I was doing research on this project, I came across some very excellent information that the Chief Operating Officer of the Rhode Island Department of Education shared. And he said that we have architects, we have engineers in our department. We will be happy to share those resources. We will be happy to come down on a weekly basis to get this plan activated. My biggest concern, and Mr. Mollis, you know this, is that this bond for the school was sold with a 35 to 40% reimbursement. If it's not going to be a 35 or 40% reimbursement with this plan, that's a no-go. We can't do that to the taxpayers of North Kingstown. That's just an honest statement I'm making right now. Because if you use this plan, you will forever, and I mean in the next 10 to 15 years, I don't think you'll ever get another school bond approved. Because what happened here is you didn't give two choices. You don't go out and buy the first car that you're shopping for. You look at a couple, you talk to people, you find out if there's something better. So I'm hoping the information that you give us tonight shows that you have reactivated working with RIDE and their experts to come up with a different scenario. The other thing I want to point out, it's not just Joe Texera. It's the taxpayers, and it's also the president of the town council, Mr. Mancini. I don't know if it was the April 7th or April 14th meeting of the town council, but when I spoke with these same concerns, immediately 5 minutes after I spoke, he asked Dr. Pierce, who is the town council representative, to come back to the town council, and in his words, could you just let them know we'd like to see a third floor design? I don't think he said third floor addition. I don't think he said put a third floor on your current design. I believe in my heart of hearts, he said, let's give the taxpayers another opportunity to look at a different design that will give us more square foot. The other thing, I know I only have a couple of minutes left. The other thing, again, when the bond was sold to the taxpayers for a Wickford middle school. It wasn't sold as a Wickford middle school with daycare for 125 children ages 3 to 4, maybe 5 years old. You can't do that to people. You can't say, vote for this $137 million bond that's going to give you a junior high school, and then start doing additions so that you can try and get more of a reimbursement. I'm hoping, you guys have great news for us, that you've started working again with RIDE.
30 seconds, sir.
Okay. They're willing and able to help, and again, they have experts there. I just implore you, I encourage you to work with the Rhode Island Department of Education. They can help you, and they can help the taxpayers, because you remember one thing, in 2 years, you'll be back asking for more money. Oh, we got to take care of the elementary schools now. We got to build new ones. Well, you really don't, because if you spend $40 to $45 million on a new middle school, the extra $35 million can be used to upgrade the current elementary schools, and that is extremely important for everyone. Thank you.
Diane Hill.
Hello, Diane Hill. I live at 40 Heritage Road in North Kingstown. Coming today I know that the school plans, we're looking at cost cutting, and I'm here to urge you not to abandon the net zero design as part of the cost cutting measures. This is really important to me, and I think to lots of people here in North Kingstown. To my way of thinking, when we're building a structure that's going to last 50 years or more, we want the foundational pieces to be right, pieces that are going to last into the future. And we know that energy costs for gas and oil continue to be volatile and keep going up. And we know that clean, renewable energy sources like solar, like wind, like geothermal continue to go down. And so whatever expense there's going to be to do it with clean, renewable energy, where we have the technology, and that's been the plan for this new construction, is going to be paid back in spades, in the future. The other thing to me that's important, in my opinion, is we're looking at building a school. We're here, all people here as part of the school department, which means we all believe in science. And we're teaching our children about the climate crisis and climate change and global warming. So to me, it's very inconsistent that to set this new construction up with gas heating or fossil fuel HVAC, when it's contributing to threatening our future generations. And I'm very concerned about that as the grandmother of 2 young children growing up in Rhode Island. So I would urge you not to abandon net zero as part of cost cutting. To me, that is foundational, and it's the right thing to do. Other places, perhaps can be cut. I don't know what kind of bells or whistles, whatever, but this is foundational to building a school that is meant for the future and that is going to be here for the future. So I ask you please to consider this as you're looking at cost-cutting measures. Thank you.
Sean Taylor.
Hello, everybody. Sean Taylor. I know some of you are pretty familiar with my face, but kind of new to this subcommittee and speaking comment. We've brought some citizen published information that I've placed in the back. Highly encourage everybody in the audience and also the committee members to take a look at it. I'm going to touch on some of the points there, but it's kind of a more structured approach you can look at later, including some cited resources. So first, hello and thank you all for your efforts, especially on this committee regarding the RIDE application and the WMS project, which are critical to the future of this town. As many of you know, redistricting is a topic near and dear to my heart, and following the RIDE meeting and the new demographic study, it's become clear to me that there's a clear linkage between WMS and the redistricting challenges faced by the city. RIDE has encouraged the school committee and administration to look into many comments that they provided. Part of this was a recommendation to reassess 5th grade and middle school, and that's what I'm going to largely speak to now. I've dug into this myself and was surprised at what I found, and I'm actually pretty sure you will be too. Building WMS to support district-wide incorporation of 5th grade in a fiscally responsible manner, which is absolutely key, as some of the speakers before me mentioned, in handling some of the 5 to 7 year issues that are foreseeable and clearly shown in the demographic study. I don't recommend this idea lightly. Through 2035, when the demographic study data ends, 2 consecutive years have total district capacity exceeding 99.8% for the elementary schools. There are a total of 8 years with similarly concerning utilization. That's 80% of the reported years. If we were to look into incorporating 5th grade in the middle school, it would conceivably free up somewhere around 12 to 13 rooms in our current elementary schools. You may ask why this is important, and one of the first reasons is that this would allow our wonderful IEP programs to occupy true classroom spaces instead of just offset spaces such as storage areas and things like that for reading specialists and those kind of programs. This is important because it reduces the risk of small classes becoming overcrowded and requiring sending IEP kids outside of the district in the future. When you have a 99.8% utilization and your IEP programs are utilizing rooms that can only hold a handful of students, you add 1 student, you risk not being able to expand your 1 classroom anymore. This is important not just because of fairness to the children, but Dr. Santa recently spoke to the cost of this. Sending an IEP child out of this district, which is obviously unfair to begin with, also has a cost associated with it of $100,000 per student, approximately. This is not a small amount of money, and that's above and beyond the fairness to the child. On the other hand, adding 5th grade to WMS would increase district-wide flexibility for our existing programs. These extra elementary rooms would give space and flexibility to organize rooms for the administration as well. This building's lease is not cheap. I know that's been a priority in the past and has hit stumbling blocks. If we had those extra rooms in the elementary schools, that'd give flexibility to move things around within the district, and maybe we can stop paying the $130,000 a year for this building. What's the cost of inaction? If we look at the risk of displacing even 1 IEP classroom in that 8-year period, just 1 4-student IEP classroom, and the cost of this lease, that is $4.26 million in 8 years. And the demographic study shows clearly risk over an 8-year period of the 10 years it covers. Beyond these cost savings, additional space will be critical in those high-risk 8 years, because if we end up in a place where we can't move kids around, redistricting might not be able to solve the problem, at least not and keep our high quality in place. If we're able to put the 5th grade in the middle school and open up these rooms, it substantially reduces the risk of frequent redistricting and disruption to the children in the elementary schools, as well as providing quality space for our 5th to 8th graders. To be clear, I'm not advocating changing the approved bond funds. This proposed solution is in taxpayers and students' best interest, but that doesn't preclude existing fiduciary responsibility. We still need to look at cost efficiency and reimbursement.
30 seconds, Mr. Taylor.
Oh boy. I'm not going to get to this all, so I'll skip to the end. It's rare for problems to so neatly intertwine themselves in timing and nature. Today, all of these problems would benefit greatly from inclusion of 5th grade and middle school. Isn't it convenient that we're planning and building one currently? I highly recommend that we take the time to step back and, regardless of past decisions, look at this in a new light. Look at it with the things you personally know are going on in the district, and look at it to see if this can help solve some of our problems that are going on right now. Thank you all for your time. Please, I would really ask you guys to take a look at this.
Richard Welsh.
Good evening, Richard Welch, 8 Arrow Lane. Is this being streamed?
Yes, sir. This is going out on, I believe, our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's being recorded, not live streamed.
It's being recorded, not
Recorded.
streamed?
It's
So-
being recorded, so it'll go out within 48. It'll be posted within 48 hours.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, one of the first speaker, mentioned that we have a hard time hearing, and I do not understand, quite frankly, as a taxpayer in this community for over 40 years, with you folks having a budget of over $62 million, why we have to meet in a room where there are not microphones, where these people cannot hear what is being said. So I just want to reiterate what Mr. Thompson said. You know, as a long-term resident of this community, and you folks are dealing with quite a large sum of money that you expect the taxpayers to take. Operating this as a private meeting and not as a public meeting is very distasteful. Thank you.
Amanda Millar.
This doesn't work, right? Okay, I'm guessing from that. Okay, I'll try to be loud. Hi, my name is Amanda Mellor. I am a parent of a student at Hamilton Elementary. In the last building advisory meeting, one of the statements I heard really stuck out to me. This was during a discussion of the proposal to combine pre-K with 6 through 8 at the new Wickford Middle School. And someone said, investing in pre-K is unequivocally a good idea. I'm paraphrasing, that might not be exactly what they said. They did say the word unequivocally though, because that's what gave me pause. It's not that I disagree with the premise of early childhood education, but I do think it needs to be evaluated in the full context of all of the information. So for example, last week I attended the school committee meeting where there was a vote to move some of pre-K to Davisville. My understanding, by the way, is that even if there was some discussion about this bill that's in the legislature right now, I think it's 394, but it's essentially universal early childhood education for something like 70% of those age children. But my understanding is that even if this bill were to pass in subsequent years, that there would still be adequate capacity in that Davisville situation to accommodate them without needing to necessarily move them to the new Wickford Middle School. And then similarly, on May 6th, I believe the school committee will vote on a short-term redistricting plan for September 2025. I'm sure we'll get to this in that meeting on Tuesday, but redistricting is proven to drive more negative behaviors and educational outcomes. And so, you know, why do this again and again if it's not absolutely necessary? So with that said, in consideration of all of the data and the research, I believe that an optimal solution, which would both maximize reimbursement and potentially minimize or eliminate the need to redistrict both now and in the future, would be to update our middle schools. And I'm speaking, by the way, to both Wickford Middle School and Davisville Middle School because, you know, everything needs to be done equitably, to a grade 5 through 8 model. I will say my oldest child is currently in 1st grade, so if we were to do this, he would probably be part of the inaugural class of 5th graders at the middle school. So then, you know, I just want to share that because I obviously thought long and hard about the pros and cons of this. Like, I remember someone last week saying that such a move can create riskier behaviors in 5th graders. But honestly, after reviewing the research, I do feel differently. I think looking at this handout even, it's really informative. 15 of the top 15 middle schools in Rhode Island follow this 5th through 8th model. And most middle schools with the 5th through 8th model in Rhode Island are ranked above average. So I just think, like, just look at our own region to maybe see some of the potential benefits of this solution. The last thing I'll say, I just want to acknowledge that there are a lot of advisory boards right now. I think some of us, including the people sitting on them, are attending like multiple meetings a week. And there's a lot of emerging information constantly. So whether it's a new request from RIDE or a new demographic study. And so I just wanted to offer, like, please don't be, I don't know what that is, it's not me. Please don't be shy to reach out, not only amongst your boards, but to others in the community. A lot of us, like, whether it's through our educational background or our employment, it was kind of nice. A lot of us have a lot of experience in things like data analysis and research, and we're very passionate about these topics. And I think it's kind of similar. I believe you had mentioned that there are, experts at RIDE that are like really willing to roll up their sleeves and just help out and get involved. Like, a lot of us, I can say, feel the same way. And so if you all need any help and we're not necessarily on the board, like, we're here. So just reach out. You can reach out to me. I can help. Thank you. Thank you.
Teresa Hirsch? Thank you.
Good evening, or afternoon, really. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for being a part of this subcommittee. Of all this, I feel like I'm going to repeat a lot of what has been said, but there are a lot of subcommittee meetings going on, and I feel like this might be the most valuable one at the moment, and not just because of the money that's being allocated, but also the incredibly important opportunity to plan for the future of North Kingstown. I'm here because at the last meeting, like some people have said, I was encouraging the subcommittee towards the addition of the pre-K to the new Wickford Middle School. But last week, our school committee designated Davisville Academy as the new home of the pre-K, and I will skip some of what I was going to say because it really is just reiterating what has been said. But basically, financially, it would be redundant to consider adding a preschool to this building. We have a new home for our preschool, and we don't need to spend more money on this small percentage of really the thousands of kids in the NK district. We listened to all of the details, and I feel like they will comfortably continue to fit in DA for some time. But receiving the new 10-year demographic study, we're soon facing absolute maximum capacity in our elementary schools. And right now, the most pressing issue is the thousands of students throughout the district who are in our elementary schools. So at almost the exact time that the new Wickford Middle School is scheduled for completion, we will be at our maximum capacity. And the solution to this would be either to build a new elementary school, which we will definitely be still paying for this bond, or add our 5th grade to the Wickford Middle School, which is being built, and do updates to the Davisville Middle School. So I'm here tonight to really implore you to solve a long-term problem which North Kingstown has suffered with, and that is constant redistricting. As we move toward the maximum capacity, we have repeatedly redistricted, so much so that the school committee is now proposing a policy for annual redistricting. Those moves to moving our 5th grade to the 2 middle schools will solve future capacity issues without building a new school and end redistricting. As a parent, I feel very confident that if we could move preschoolers safely into a middle school, definitely we can move 5th graders safely into a middle school. And while the building is being built, we have adequate time for our administration to create the appropriate curriculum adjustments for the 4th graders to become the oldest in the elementary schools, and our 5th graders the newest students attending the middle school. Second, another second part of the spending responsibility given to this subcommittee is the maintenance of our NKSD buildings, including the construction of walls in 3 of our elementary schools. I was frustrated to find out that this work would not be completed until after the Wickford Middle School was built. If at all possible, I'm here to ask you to please prioritize the building of walls in all of our elementary schools, as well as the updates necessary to Davisville, so that they are happening on a similar timeline to the new build in Wickford. While secure entryways to the schools, I heard, are a priority, I believe that walls within our school are on par with that level of safety. Just contemplate for a minute a fire, or heaven forbid, a shooter in those buildings. The walls it's a safety issue, and the walls would also improve learning, as it would quiet the entire school as a whole. Dr. Duva had previously proposed redistricting boundary lines based on bus routes. Unfortunately, just looking at the student numbers in the demographic study without ethnicity and using bus routes to plan the movement has caused the administration to overlook the fact that we are moving a minority population from Reynolds Farm out of their neighborhood school and into another school, which already has the largest minority population in North Kingstown. As we await the next redistricting meeting, I believe the members of this subcommittee would want to stop any proposed, by definition, segregation of minority populations in North Kingstown.
30 seconds, please.
These families have been repeatedly attending meetings and spoken up, and I am here just to echo their words. All of these meetings have been recorded. Please go back, listen to the start time redistricting meetings, comments, and the school committee meetings. You will see them and hear their stories for yourself. Finally, I wanted to share with you just the destabilizing effect that constant redistricting has. Simply Google that, and you will come up with a number of reasons to not constantly redistrict. Thank you.
That concludes our public comments. Did anybody?
Yeah, I missed sign up. Mine.
Well, okay.
Were you gonna ask anyways? Appreciate it.
I just asked that you sign in
Oh,
here.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic on Coast Road there.
Agree with
An
that.
hour late, now it's fine. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
I'll be quick. This doesn't work?
So it does,
Just
but
speak
that's
up.
recorded, that records for the video. That
Just speak.
microphone that records the
Oh,
sound
it's
for the
recording.
video.
Hi, my name is Megan. I'm a parent of a first grader and a 3-year-old. We live on Anaquatucket. I'm here to ask this subcommittee to consider looking at moving our 5th graders to our middle schools, similar to what some other folks have said. This school committee and its subcommittees have a unique and rare opportunity to be involved in building a new middle school and in greatly reducing, if not eliminating, the long-standing practice of redistricting in our elementary schools. Our schools are facing many challenges, which will continue to grow with the increasing needs of our students. If we can use this school improvement bond to reduce the strain on our elementary schools by moving our 5th graders into the middle school, why wouldn't we do that? There will be challenges, and it will be a lot of work, but I don't see anything written in the bond disqualifying this from being part of the project. Furthermore, the 5th through 8th grade model is successfully used by 2 of our closest neighbors in Jamestown and Narragansett. This solution is not ideal, but it provides a path forward that gives the greatest stability to our youngest students. We need to take this opportunity to look beyond just the issue of needing new middle schools and some school improvements. We need to make the most of this opportunity while staying within budget, of course. Thank you for your time and your dedication to the town and our students.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the approval of past minutes. Got a little housekeeping work to do there. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from, do I have to do it individually, or can I do it lump sum? You can do it lump sum. Okay. Approve the minutes from the building subcommittee from February 12th, 2025, March 12th, 2025, and April 7th, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Case seconded, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Please.
There being no discussion, All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Due to the fact that we've had some time constraints occur in the last 48 hours, we're gonna do a little rearranging of the agenda right now. Item number 4, your building subcommittee housekeeping item, is going to move south on the agenda, and we are going to make a motion that the status of stage 2 feedback be the next item.
A second that. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Case, first did the motion?
Made the motion.
Made the motion,
I'll
thank you.
second it.
And Rob, any discussion? Nope. There being no discussion, the motion passes. Nope, no, we have to take a vote, sorry. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. I will hand the floor to our friends from Perkins Eastman. Or is that Inga?
Status, no, that's a different item.
Okay.
The status of stage 2 feedback. Would you like to touch base on it first?
Yeah, I can share. So as far as where we stand with getting all the feedback done, we've had weekly, sometimes twice a week meetings with the project team, which would be Perkins Eastman, Rouse, and Jacobs, going through each of the items that RIDE had requested information on. They are all working on that. There are a few items that we as the school department have to report out on, and we're in the middle of getting those narratives written. We've been touching base with RIDE as well, and just kind of along the way, just reviewing the feedback with them, letting them know what we're doing, making sure we're moving in the right direction of what they would like to see from us. I know there's structural engineers reports that are getting done. Rouse is working on that for the buildings. The drawings are being worked on. We've been doing a lot of work, and we'll get into this later, regarding the design of the building and the cost of the building for the middle school. So all of that is currently in process. We have a deadline of next week of having it done, so we can start reviewing that, and then sharing it with the school committee on May 6th. Originally, this was due to RIDE on May 5th. We asked them just for a 2-day extension, so we didn't have to move school committee meetings around, and they granted that. So we'll be on the 6th and then submit it to them the next day. And then we're following up with RIDE a week later just to review everything with them. So, what do you want to add?
No, that's it. We're aiming to answer all the questions on the follow-up questions list. Some items that may have been already in a submission, or the information existed, we already cleared with RIDE, so we're trying to sort of answer some of the questions before we submit again. This is going to be addendum number 3. The addendum will be submitted via portal that they will unlock. And there are a few things that we're still clarifying with RIDE, but for the most part, I think it all comes down to the middle school and the cost.
Do you have any questions from the committee regarding that?
There being no questions? Okay, thank you very much. No need for voting on that, that's just an update, so we'll move on. We're gonna make a motion to take item number 7 next. Do I hear a motion to take item number 7 next?
I will second that.
Need a first.
I'll make a, sorry, I think you're making a motion. I will make a motion that we move the construction delivery method up on the agenda to be next.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? There being no discussion, can I have a vote? All in favor of moving the item?
Aye.
There being unanimous. Item number 7, for construction delivery methods. We're gonna review the construction delivery methods of the new middle school and the pros and cons thereof. I'm gonna ask Inga Knox, who is our OPM, to lead that discussion.
We need to display.
Am I putting it up or are you putting it up?
Do you,
I have it right here, so.
Which one are we displaying right now?
This one, the,
I have it.
Construction delivery.
Okay, if you wanna do VCAS, Kenny, you can put it on yours. Cause I don't have that one, I have the other one.
I have the handouts printed as well, I can pass around. So just a history of this, I'll try to speak up, although my voice is having an issue, allergies. One of the things that RIDE had asked us to look at is what's called the construction delivery method. And specifically the two other ones, so I will go through the delivery methods that are available. There's three construction.
Do you want me to staple those while you're talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we can just, they're all sorted by
Yeah,
pages.
no, that's fine. I can do it fast.
Sorry about that, it was sort of a last minute thing. Okay, it's up there. I'll stand here. It's okay. Alright, so what's a construction delivery method is basically how it's a type of contract that a builder will be procured and brought on board under. So there's three major ones available that we typically use in the state or New England. I mean, there might be others somewhere else, but these are the three that we typically work with. RIDE had asked us to look at all three just to see, to understand if there is any cost savings with one versus the other in terms of what the construction cost might be at the time of buying out or bidding a project. Currently, the way the architect's contract is written and the way this project has been set up, and that was done even before my time, but it was done when the combined middle school was still taking place, so that was a few years back. It's the construction manager at risk method, it's this one right here. There's another two options to do this. One is the design bid build, which is what we call lump sum or general contractor. So, and then there's another one that's kind of in between these two, which is called design build. And there are some fundamental differences between them. There is not a lot of information. I can't really say which one is less expensive versus the other. There are benefits and there are pros and cons to each. And we wanted to bring those differences to this committee so that we can have a discussion. There is definitely an opportunity to change a construction delivery method at stage 3, so once the next phase begins. So I'll just start with the design bid build. This is something that most people are used to. This is your general contractor. Basically, it's the contractor is under, the contract of the general contractor is under the town or the owner. So the owner in this case would be the town, North Kingstown School Department. The architect's contract remains under the town in this case. And the construction and design is sequential, meaning that there is basically, you have to design a full design set of documents. It has to be fully completed, vetted, then it goes out to bid. The contractor bids on a package. They bid literally on what they see, so there is no vetting of those design documents, what they see, what they submit, just like you would do when you build a house. And they submit a price. So that price is for those documents. There are no contingencies, there are no allowances, there are no there's no early work. It is what it is. Then the contract is written, they buy materials, and they start construction. So that method is sort of like the typical for smaller projects. Oh.
Sorry.
it's typical for, it's applicable to any project, so you can do any project any size with this way. I'll talk about pros and cons first. This is just kind of like a synopsis of what the differences are, what it is. Then there is something that's called design build. The fundamental difference between design build and lump sum and construction manager at risk is that the architect's contract is carried under the builder. Is it me?
No, it's me, it's my
Okay.
computer.
Is carried under the builder. So what happens is that this type of contract gets procured early on. So this, you would have to bring a design builder just about at the end of stage 2, like once the RIDE approves this application, the town can choose to swap the delivery methods, and in this case, the design builder would submit a bid, and it's an RFP, so they would submit a proposal with an architect under them. So they can choose to continue carrying the same architect, or they can choose to carry a different architect. The town, like the owner, loses control over who they are going to utilize for an architect. But what they commit to is a project of like to deliver a project at a schedule and at a budget. So we take, say, like whatever we submit to RIDE approves it. And let's say I don't want to use, I don't know, let's say 70 million. I don't know, I'm just saying that. Wickford Middle School, 70 million and 14 months construction. I'm not saying this is what it is, it's just an example. Whoever submits commits to deliver a project at 70 million at 14 months. But they'll use their own architect or the architect of their choice, and they can control the documents, they control the process to deliver the program at that level. They still have to obviously meet the program needs, they have to meet the design intent, but they can make modifications with the architect as they see fit to meet that schedule and that budget. The other difference is, so one of the things here is that in the lump sum, the GC approach, you can pre-qualify construction general contractors. There is a way to pre-qualify them, say, write a pre-qualification criteria, but you sort of have to award to the lowest in this case. In this case, and the construction manager at risk case, you can actually award them based on their qualifications, based on the fee, based on their approach, the architect that they're using, and other things. So similar to what is happening with the owner's project manager and the architect. This approach is appropriate for larger scale projects. It's probably not as appropriate for things like smaller projects, like roofing projects, and etc. If we can scroll down a little bit, for some reason it's not full screen.
Well, it's because I made it larger so people can see it.
Okay. In this case, there are allowances, contingencies carried within their budget, within their contract. They set them up, and but the owner has no control over subcontractors that they use. They have no control of movements of the money. There is no control within the contract. They say, okay, this is the project, this is what it looks like, this is what it has to be, the set of specs and drawings. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna do whatever needs to be done to make it happen. In this case, in the lump sum approach, the owner also doesn't have control over subcontractors. So they will bring whoever they bring to make this job cost as much as it costs. There are ways to pre-qualify subcontractors. There are ways to control it, but at the end of the day, it's a lump sum. Whatever happens in that lump sum, we don't know. So, next one, if we can go up a little bit to the top. Now, the construction manager at risk, that is basically an open book approach. So SCM is brought on board as kind of like the partner to the owner. They come in at pre-construction phase. The architect remains under the owner. They operate by themselves. They are awarded based on pre-construction services and fees. They are involved early on, similarly to design build during pre-construction, so the estimates are done. They can do estimates in both of these options. They can reconcile estimates. And the contract is called something that's a guaranteed maximum price. So basically, once everything is estimated, it's drawn, there is a way to award smaller packages, stagger schedule, so you can start earlier while you're doing some work, you're designing some work, so your schedule can get condensed overall because you can stagger buyouts. And the biggest difference between, you can do all that in both here and there, but the biggest difference in the CM world is that it's an open book, meaning that the owner is able to participate in procurement of all subcontractors. So everything, everyone participates in descoping them, in getting the pricing. The owner has access to all contract documents for the subcontractors, all the values. They can see every movement of the funds. They can see all the allowances, all the contingencies, and anything that's unspent at the end of the day goes back to the owner. So that is the biggest difference, is that in CM at risk, you see everything, every penny, everything. Nothing can be moved without your approval. In design build, you get a project at a value on a schedule, say, but you don't see what's happening inside. You don't know if they made money, they made money. It's not something you can control or know. If they lost money, again, they lost money. So this is kind of like the big difference. And the architect is under them, so you kind of lose control over the architect, because the architect reports to the builder. And then in the lump sum environment, you don't have control over anything that happens inside. They can do whatever they want. They made money, and the biggest difference is whatever is not on the drawings here, like say there is a miss, any coordination, anything that's not drawn, not coordinated, anything that's in addition or hasn't been available at the time of the bid is a change order, meaning that the owner has to carry a slightly heavier contingency, because if there is an outlet but there is no wires that go to the outlet, you have to pay for the wires. There is no coordination, so you didn't buy the wires. In the event with design build, in the case NCM, there is certain coordination and contingency that happens carried inside their contract that gets applied to those, we call them misbuys. We can go to the next slide. Any questions? It's a little, and I know it's when it's new, it's there may be like questions that you don't know, but yeah.
In the construction manager risk option, there's a guaranteed maximum price. You say to that construction manager risk, here's $500 million, build that school. And they say, yep, absolutely. And they start having overruns. Those overruns are their responsibility. Am I correct? They're still bound to us to build that school exactly as it's designed, with no implications to our pocketbook.
Correct. The overruns are covered by CM contingency, which is that 2-3%, and they guarantee you that that CM contingency has a specific allocation and specific language in the contract, by what you can use it for. So all of those overruns you're talking about, that contingency kind of applies for. You still have to approve it though. They can't just say, hey, I'm gonna draw the funds. But they guarantee you that if the overruns run over that contingency, it's on them.
It's on.
Yes.
them.
Yes. That is the risk factor. Like I don't really agree with the name risk. I think it's less I think they changed it in the AIA contracts, it's called as constructor or something like that, they eliminated the word risk. But, so, the pros and cons, the lump sum approach. The benefit of that is that it tends to be less, the initial bid value, the initial cost of the project at the time of bid tends to be lower than in the CM at risk or the design build version, because it's a competitive bid. I put it out for bid, everyone submits, everyone sharpens their pencils, and everybody wants to be extremely, extremely competitive. So if the market is favorable and say there's a lot of construction companies out there that are looking for work, they'll submit and you'll get a much, well, not much better, but you'll get a better price. What is that difference? You know, everyone, there is really no specific like dictionary value. It's 5%. Some people can say it's 5%, some people can say it's 10%, some people can say it's 2%. It's very much depends on the time when you bid it. It depends on the economic environment. It depends if you do it in the summer or in the fall. It depends if there's a lot of work in the state or there isn't. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But it will be, compared to the GMP and your hard bid initial value, the hard bid will be lower. It's everyone agrees on that part. What the disadvantages is that your drawings, your documents have to be extremely, extremely high quality and they're very well coordinated, which human error and coordination, you know, there is a certain percentage that is acceptable in the industry to have change orders, to have things that may have been missed. You know, people, there's a lot of trades, a lot of people that put these documents together. So the recommendation is always to carry a higher contingency on the owner side. So like 5 to 10%. Between 5 and 10, but I always say 10 is better because you don't know how many change orders and what might come up. I mean, industry standard is like 3 to 5% from the bid. But the GC will not know what your contingency is, the contractor. So that contingency is kept private. You don't have to disclose it, and you know, no one needs to know as far as they're concerned. This is what they're delivering, and then every time there's something changed, you know, you vet it as a team, and then you approve change order. Next. The advantages of design build. The project tends to be faster because the builder controls the architect, controls the schedule, controls the documents, and everyone works under one contract. So they are sort of like working together and they're continuously reviewing documents on the go. So the schedule tends to be faster. One of the benefits of design build is the building goes faster. The other benefit is, you know, you get the one contract. You don't have to manage two. You kind of get into it. They owe you a building. They owe you a building on the schedule and on this value, at that value. The disadvantage of it is when the interests are sort of only at a schedule and cost, quality might become a problem because they owe, like if something, let's say, it still has to meet code, of course. It's not like the quality will go down completely. They can't change, you know, one roof for the other roof without any reason. But they have control because they promised you a building at a certain cost. So they have control to modify, replace, value engineer, to do whatever needs to be done to get this building to you at that cost. It certainly does. It doesn't happen like, hey. We're going to give you a shed versus a building. Of course, there is a vetting process, there is a conversation, same thing. But they can come in, they can come to an architect and they can say, look, we got to do what we got to do. We're going to redesign this, we're going to design this way, different way. And there is no choice because the contractual obligation of the architect is to the builder, not to you.
But at the same time, that contractor is there to make money,
The contractor is there to make money. Everyone is there to make money,
of
actually.
course.
So, there is, I'm just gonna say it because I don't know, I don't have that information. I spoke to about 7 CMs and GCs. No one really has a specific, like, is it less expensive? We've been hearing things like design build is 20% less. I can't tell you that. In my experience, I don't think it is. But again, different people say different things. There is no information out there that proves that, because you would have to build 2 projects exactly the same at different delivery methods to really know, right? Because no project is the same, so you can kind of go back and forth. The general answer, the general idea, I have done it both ways for different types of projects, so they're not apples to apples. But the general idea is that the design build could be less expensive in some way, could be a little bit closer to what maybe the lump sum approach is, but only if it's a specific, in some cases, I'd say, and when the builder carries their own architect, when the owner has no say in it. For example, some CMs, they have some construction manager companies, building companies, they have their own in-house architects, so they do it that way. We never know, we would never know how they maneuver things in the contract, what they do. This is something that's not open book. Yeah.
Again, not necessarily like knowing which one would be less expensive or better or whatever. Is there any trend that we see with specifically school construction projects around which method is used? Is there one that's typically used more than others, or is it more of an even distribution?
So it kind of goes back and forth. Some maybe 10 years ago, construction manager at risk was a huge hit. Like, it was a big kind of wave and drive to do CM at risk, and that is because it's an open book, and that is because you get a sort of like a higher quality product at the end, and you know exactly which money where it went, and the change orders tend to be very, very low, and you also don't lose on that quality. And I can talk about some of the things that, the benefits and disadvantages. Massachusetts actually gives an extra % reimbursement for construction manager at risk method. In Rhode Island, it has been more of a drive lately to deviate towards design build or a lump sum. And that is because the sort of notion that you will be, that the building cost will be lower. Is it true or not true? I can't answer.
Right, it's a notion, it's a
thought.
thought.
I don't know. I can only give you the build benefits and the disadvantages. I do know that the hard bid will always be a little bit less. It just depends on how good your drawings are too.
So in other words, what I'm hearing is that CMR was more of a traditional approach that had been done going back a ways, and more recent trends have kind of brought in design build lump sums.
So the reason why CM at risk has been popular is because, and I think design build came in between the lump sum versus CM at risk. That's really like a hybrid between the two, because you don't have control like the lump sum, but you have an ability to do faster projects. So the biggest advantage of design build and CM at risk is ability to do early work. So you stagger your schedule, just so you can start your demo, start your abatement, buy your steel, buy your materials, buy your HVAC systems, because these construction managers can store it, they can pay for it, and then while you're doing that, the architect may be still working on construction documents, we call them early packages. So instead of, say, 18 months, you complete your entire project in 14, for example, right? Because you're demolishing and building and buying and designing all at the same time.
Also, there's a level of transparency that exists with
Level of
construction.
transparency only
And
exists.
in this community, I think that's extraordinarily valuable, knowing what I know about this community.
So, just to clarify with design build, I think it's important to state that it's not like the design builder can build whatever they want. They're handed your 30% documents and they give you a price to build that building. They can't change it from a masonry building to a steel shed. They can change, I guess, that's my understanding of design build, that they can't, they have to provide you what was on the documents you provided them.
So they've designed the documents, right? So we give them, let's say we have schematic design documents, pre-schematic design, I would say, documents ready right now at stage 2 that we submitted to RISE, that they got approved. We have a set of drawings. We take that set of drawings, it gets, there is an RFP, the design builder looks at the set of drawings and tells you, we can do it. They come in to you as in an interview, they submit a proposal and they say, we looked at it, we estimated it again, we can do it for 69. Another one will come in and say, we can do it for 72. I don't know, like they'll come in with their own approach. We can do it with this architect under us, we can carry the same architect or whatever. So they come in with a plan. They'll also come in and say, for us to do it at 69, we're gonna have to do this, 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 and that. And you can choose whether you accept it or reject it, right? Once they are on board and once they are under contract, let's say in 1 year, something goes extremely high up in price or something happens and it becomes not available, they'll come to you and they'll say, if you still want us to deliver this at this price and at this budget, we're gonna substitute it for something else. And then you can choose. If you say, no, I don't want to do that, then you'll have to pay extra. So,
So can I just add, so we do all of these?
Yes.
And we're currently doing all of these. And there's pros and cons to all of those things. The design build, they would, as Amy said, they would still come to you and say, here's some strategies to stay on budget. The difference, I think, for us, at least as an architect, if we're direct to you guys, then we're your advocate. And if they say, hey, I know a less expensive ceiling tile that's just as good, then we would evaluate and tell you whether we think it's just as good. And you can make the decision still that it's okay to go with a less expensive one. But if we're for them, we're on their team, we're on their team. And so that advocacy changes a little bit, right? We wouldn't necessarily be chiming in there.
and you don't know what they pay them, what their contract is with them, what the terms and conditions are. You don't know any of that. It's the contract with you and the builder. So you don't know if they vetted the project and they made a lot of money, if they didn't, we don't know any of that. Obviously everyone is there to make money and they will be competitive. Everyone wants to be, but it's not an open book process.
So basically, I think that is important for them to understand the difference. It's not just the cost of the project. An option 1, design bid build, you are talking about 100% construction documents, which need to be, like you said, pretty much 99% precise. Anything that deviates from that, it will become a change order. The reason why sometimes that becomes a lump sum and that you are at a loss with the subs that you have no control. They are gonna get the cheapest sub that they can get, and you are gonna end up getting, obviously, the cheapest labor and product that you are gonna be able to get.
The quality.
Correct. It could suffer or not, but it's just a possibility.
Yes.
And the design build, what you are talking about basically is that the reason why you work, the general contractor has his own architect is because he's controlling the production of the so-called construction documents. Construction documents are being produced while the construction is happening. That doesn't mean that the owner or the client is completely out of the project. I work on that and you work together with the client on a constant basis. The coordination happens, then again, while construction, the drawings are being drawn or drafted, and the construction is processing or progressing. The advantage of this is that instead of spending a year designing or producing construction document, you could have that done in 6 months. The cost will be or could be exactly the same. I am on the right track here. The last resort is the construction management.
Right.
That I am not 100% sure. It is in between, basically.
No, in between is design build. The construction manager at risk is the difference. So design build is what you just described, and the construction manager is the same exact thing, but the fundamental difference is that the architect, when the architect is under the builder can make changes and the architect has to comply.
And I get it, but then again, the owner has always participation on this. In reality, or I should, in reality, the difference is not exactly that you are gonna get the lowest product that you, because of the cost.
You, the owner, can participate, but you, the owner, do not have access to their backup. You don't know what their bids of the subs are, and you don't get to choose the subs in design build. Only in CM at risk approach, you get to choose the subcontractors, and you get to see every penny that's moved in the backup. I can get, like in my construction manager at risk projects, I can get everything, every accounting document that they have, up to the salaries of people. No one bills or no one moves a penny without the team seeing it. This is the fundamental difference, and the architect works for the owner, not for them. In the design build, the design builder promises you a cost and a schedule. They don't promise you as one sub over the other. You can say during procurement, you can say we would like to use pre-qualified subcontractors, so you can kind of control it, but it's exactly the same way as you control the lump sum. Because they owe you a cost of a building, they can substitute subcontractors, they can do whatever they need to do to deliver that building. If they can say, okay, this sub is, like this electrician is not performing, we're behind schedule, we fired them, we're gonna hire some other one. You don't get to say yes or no, because they have to do what they have to do to deliver the project. So that's the fundamental difference.
Thank you. Next.
Normally on a project this size, how many construction companies would probably send you a bid?
So virtually every company that does CM at risk also does design build. Not every company will do a lump sum. So a lot of bigger construction companies have, from some reason, do not bid on lump sum projects. So they would bid on design build or construction management. And I don't know that reason, actually, no one has told me yet. So if anyone finds out, let me know. But no, the typical bigger companies that work on these projects, from some reason, don't go lump sum. In terms of who the companies are, I mean, they're...
I know at the high school, we had about six or eight bids. That's, just to wonder how many companies would be interested in doing something at $70 million.
I know for a fact that at least six reputable companies are watching this project right now, because people are reaching out.
That's good.
This is an important project to the state. People are watching. I can't say who will or will not submit. It all depends. It depends on the. Like you said, you had 6 in some projects now because of how busy companies are. I get 1, but I think project of this size and the program of this size and how much
Just so you know, Jack, having come from East Providence recently, where they built that new high school, and they're just about a third of the way through the middle school there. For the high school, there were 4 major bidders. For the middle school that they're building, there were 3 bidders. Because those are some
There's
involved,
still a lot
you know,
of, lot of
big
good,
involved
big
projects.
companies out there.
Oh, they
Oh,
were.
yes,
That can do
yes.
this
They
kind
were
of
heavy
work.
hitters, they were heavy hitters.
You know, that you can do this kind of work. This
Right.
is, good work.
Yep.
There is really only 4 or 6 that you get here,
Right.
maximum of 6 usually.
What was the construction delivery method for East Providence?
Construction manager risk in both instances.
Thank you.
My Cranston projects go either way, like they have design build and CM.
Inga, quick question, so, and I think this has been answered, but we're doing the same thing with the public safety complex. Basically, construction manager at risk has its benefits, but it weeds out any smaller companies. A smaller company, a smaller contractor is probably not gonna bid on a construction manager at risk.
The
That's the way
smaller
they
companies
define.
also will not bid as a lump sum. You
Correct,
can
they don't
you
design
can
bid build.
control that.
Correct.
Let's not say about smaller or larger. We should say about more qualified or less qualified. Could be a small company that's very qualified. We don't know, right? Like, but I'm saying like usually you are correct.
But design bid build will have more bids than a construction manager.
Because more people can do it.
Right.
Not necessarily.
No? Okay,
No.
that's what I've been advised, okay.
Lump sum will, actually, but
No, lump sum won't, lump
but
sum.
you'll get a lot different.
You'll have more, again, you would know, but I'm being advised that, and by the way, I'm not saying I like it, I'm being advised that you will get more bidders on design bid build than you would on lump sum or
I don't
construction
know
manager.
who advised you on
Good
that.
enough.
I can argue them.
Good enough.
That's not it. The design build and CM will get similar companies,
that's what I
exactly
said.
the same one.
Right.
The lump sum ones is just what happens is, for instance, I don't know, a lot of companies, I don't wanna say like names and
Mhm.
being correct, but and them calling me and saying, why did I mention them? But a lot of companies now choose not to go in a lump sum, so because they feel that they're not providing the service or something. But now it's also changing because more projects due to funding issues go with the lump sum. Those companies decide that they want to go. So it's like changes, right? So there's no really like a crystal ball on this or that.
Well, in today's economic environment, you cannot do a lump sum because you don't know. You are buying today for $2 and tomorrow for 10.
And they can come back to you and they can say, you know what, we can do it, we need more money because it was $2 and now it's 6. But, yeah. And so the last slide I had is basically advantages and disadvantages of a CM at risk. I mean, certainly the advantages I think we talked about is the quality, the open book. The quality of work tends to be a little bit better because you have a construction manager, everything is vetted. They're your team player, so they're team up with you. And then the disadvantages is the upfront cost. I mean, there is a little bit more markups, contingencies. So this is where it's seen as less favorable because that 12% that you get on the top of your construction cost is seen as negative because there is more, there's almost like more markups, if you will, in the beginning. But the thing is, you can argue that because yes, there may be more markups in the beginning, but at the end, you're not going to pay a change order. Like I have a project right now that has 0 change orders. We have not gone back to the city for change orders. Everything that we put in, the contingencies, the allowances, the holds, all the measures that we have within, and we're probably going to get even money back from them because it's in their best interest to actually deliver that project at a high quality and less changes. This is the biggest benefit that I see in construction manager at risk, but the cost, the upfront cost may be a little bit higher, the design build is maybe a little bit lower, and the lump sum is the lowest, but then the risk is highest. So.
Inga, does RIDE stay out of this, or do they ever have a suggested or preferred method?
One wants to answer that. RIDE does not tell you, like, the district can choose what delivery method they want to use. So if you come into RIDE and you say, we chose this, they have no they have no legal ability to tell you not to do it. However, they do say that lump sum and design build is financially more favorable, but this is their opinion that they have also noted in the comments, and this is why we're doing it.
So that's part of the will approve but not support vein?
It's not necessarily not support. They are not, they're not allowed not to support. This isn't that.
Okay.
They're just, it's just how they see it. So as it's, again, those are people, you know, we all have opinions. So the opinion of those people, that organization that has been suggested, it was not directed, to look at these options.
Well, their opinion seems.
I think what I heard them saying was that design build is something that they could potentially save money with. But I never saw any evidence that they presented that there were districts that did that. Not to say that they are making it up, but just to say, like, in general, I remember hearing them say that, but I don't remember ever hearing like specific examples given.
Well, because if you go in and you say, okay, I have $5 and I want 5 apples for $5, and I come to you and they say, give me 5 apples for $5, you're gonna go to the orchard and you promised me 5 apples for $5 in one day. You're gonna go to the orchard, you can give me rotten apples, you can give me green ones, yellow ones, purple ones. I can only maybe say I don't want rotten apples, I want fresh apples, but I don't care where they come from. So you're gonna go and find me, they may be non-organic, organic, I don't know, you will never know, right? So this is the design build. This is why you guaranteed 5 apples for $5 in a day. With the CM at risk, you can say, well, I want 5 apples, you know, can you go and find me organic ones? Can you give it from this orchard? Can you find this? Let's look at that. Maybe we'll grow a new tree and wait for it, like there's options.
So we would have, if we go with a CM at risk, we have more control of the work and how
Correct.
it's getting done. So.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I just know we have a lot of other things on the agenda.
Just one last point, construction manager at risk, that's a decision that would have to be made earlier than the others.
You have made the decision?
No, that would be a decision that we would have to make early in the process.
Yes, so I mean, right now the project is already set up that way. But if you want to change that method, you want to make that decision right after the stage 2.
Gotcha.
You don't have to make the decision now.
No.
As far as right goes, we can say that the district is looking at these options, but not necessarily need to make a decision.
Again, thank you.
Just to
In the
clarify,
interest of time. Yes.
Design build would have to be an early decision as well.
As well.
We're gonna partner up yeah, design build would have to be.
Design
So
build, yes.
design bid build would be the later one, because that's when you prepare your documents to go out to bid.
That, right, but you would still want to make a decision right
Of
after.
course.
Is there a difference between, because we kind of have 2 sides of the project, we have the new middle school, but we have the CIP stuff as well. So is that 2 different construction companies with 2 different?
Separate approaches.
2 separate approaches?
Yes.
Okay.
The CIP projects are probably, I would say, in my personal opinion, are best to bid individually. As they come up, you'll get a better price, you'll just draw them, they're not large, under 10 million. Under 6 million, it's not recommended to do CM at risk or design build at all.
Thank you very much, Inga. Any other questions on construction delivery methods? A lot of information there, however, we'll not be taking any vote on that particular item this evening. Next up, I would like to move to item number 6. In the interest of some folks that have to leave here, but very much want to hear this part of the discussion. Can I get a motion to take item number 6?
So moved.
Can I make a motion instead to take it, but to take 4C and put that with it, with 6, because, that was my request, 4C, it just the way it got on there. In other words, I'd like to put the parameters for evaluating solutions, maybe it's 6B. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Because it doesn't really go with housekeeping, it goes more, like, the whole reason I wanted to know.
I was thinking it's a matter of a general approach.
Sure.
You know, because it kind of overshadows everything that we do. Every decision we make should have some sort of parameter.
But if we're doing 6 first, now it doesn't make sense at 4. Like, if we're moving 6 up.
I see what you mean, yeah. Okay.
So, but, anyway, so can I make a motion to do 4C with 6.
Yep.
I'll second that.
So,
There's a method to my madness.
Okay.
very good. So 4C will be moved into 6B
Yes, please.
position, and the motion is to consider item number 6A and 6B. Next. We have the motion, we have the second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. The revised middle school design and cost options. Mr. McCarthy?
Yes, sir.
Mark McCarthy from Perkins Eastman, our architect, is here to discuss that particular item for us, with us.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, be careful for your, just the wires. I'll get this up, hold on one second. It's right on the screen.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Come on. 807, oh gosh, I put 0 instead of O, my mistake. There you go.
So I'll try to go through this relatively quickly. It's kind of a summary of how we got here and a little bit, and then outline what I think are the options for you all to discuss.
If I may, if I'm out of order, please let me know, only because I'm the one who has to leave at 6:10 for 6:30 meeting. I'm not sure if it's necessary to consistently go through how we got here. I think it's more important now is the issue at hand. If you disagree, please let me know, I'm out of line, but it seems like we spent a lot of time every meeting regurgitating the same thing we talked about the last meeting and the meeting before. I think we all know how we got here. I think we just need to know where we're going. That's my impression. I say that respectfully. If you disagree, then do what you have to do, and if I miss it, I miss it.
It's absolutely, do whatever works for you.
Yeah, why don't you just get to, I know the other slides were just to show like the different designs we had, but maybe
Okay, so
touch
yeah.
upon slide 1 and then get to.
I'm just gonna go over quickly what we've been doing in the last few weeks. So in sort of 3 buckets: cost reductions, looking at the reimbursement, and then looking at some of the programmatic options that you've been discussing. So in cost reductions, we've looked at the building design, so looking to make it more compact, looking at a 3-story option, not adding 3, but making a 3-story middle school. Looked at simplifying the building envelope. So the building envelope is the most expensive part of a building, so looked at ways we can save money there. We looked at evaluating contingencies. Some of that goes to some of the discussions we were having about whether how much contingency we're carrying early on, and some of this delivery method impacts that. One of the recommendations from RIDE was to shift some of the costs of the building into the FF&E, right? So FF&E is the furniture and fixtures. So there's some options there, whether you carry that, like, let's say, I'll just pick one, an AV system, that could be in your base budget or it could be in your FF&E. RIDE felt like it was a successful way of looking at shifting some of those costs, so moving it to the FF&E budget, which is a sort of a separate bucket from the construction costs. And then we looked at some additional alternatives, those are kind of built into the options. Net zero being one of them. I think it's a priority, but it's also quite a big expense. We looked at fields. I think we really feel that the fields are absolutely essential to the project, but we're also trying to get to an apples to apples situation, because oftentimes we were asked to look at projects that were closer to being on budget that didn't necessarily have as much site work as we do here. And then some of the procurement that we looked at. So those are the things that we continue to look at, that the design team looks at in terms of reducing the cost. We looked at reimbursement. For North Kingstown, 35% of eligible costs is what this district qualifies for. There's a couple of different ways to increase our reimbursement. One is enrollment, more kids the equation's pretty simple. This many students times this much square foot times this dollar amount is how you get to your reimbursement. So we did entertain that, a higher, enrollment. Then we also, another strategy that's available to us is additional 4% if we meet certain sustainability levels, right? So that's something that we've looked at. So obviously, if we look at net zero on and off, that changes the reimbursement. Another factor in reimbursement is special education. It's a higher per square foot costs, and I think the special education offerings at Whitford are a bit higher than what would be the state standards. That's a good thing, but it also increases our eligibility a bit. So that's in the reimbursement bucket. And then finally, it's the programming. So some of the things that were discussed, whether it was going to be beneficial financially and to the district educationally to look at additional pre-K students, or to look at adding the 5th grade. Just other options that are in here. So I'll skip the how we got to today's part and go through some of the options if you want to keep going through. Right? So I don't have to go over options. These were where we were before. So this is the 3-story compact version, right? So same program. The only reduction we did in program was we had a fitness center in addition to the gymnasium. Fitness center at a middle school level is kind of nice to have, but not an absolutely need to have in terms of, PE program. The gym we're providing is enough for this many kids to go to gym class and all that sort of thing. So that was something we considered while we're looking for cost savings. We reduced the fitness area. Otherwise, the rest of the program, classrooms, special education, cafeteria, the art rooms, all that doesn't change. We just looked at compacting it a bit more, and this is something Ryan had been encouraging us to look at, and also looking at a 3-story option. So there's it's not a simple equation, but there is some savings when we go to a 3-story option. So that's sort of, sorry, Rob, if you could just go back one. So what we're calling 3A is, this would be the middle school for 400 students. We've reduced the overall square footage to 76,000 square feet, so that's about 1,000 square feet less than where we were before. And this is including net zero, right?
Yeah, 3A includes net
So
zero.
3A, middle school, same program, compact design, still has net zero in it. The next option, same building without net zero, so that would be 3B. Sorry, because, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, it's somewhere between $6 or $7 million for net zero. There's other things that go into it. There's paybacks because you go net zero. There's operational costs that will save, down the road as you because of the operation of the building. But the upfront cost is between 6 and
You have
7 million.
6.1 million down.
Is that what we
A
have?
little over
Okay.
6.1 million.
Yeah, because it's also the envelope. It's
Right,
PD's
yeah, just to be
envelope
clear, because
geothermal.
I don't want to bog down too much, because I know we're short on time. The net zero is, the way we get there is we build a better envelope, right? So that has a cost, right? So it's, the easiest way to think about it is a thermos, right? If we build a thermos, it keeps things hot and it keeps things cold, right? So if we build a thermos, it takes a lot less energy to heat and cool that building, right? But that means the building is a little bit more expensive to build. The quality of the windows, the amount of insulation, et cetera. The other components, big components, are the geothermal, so the wells in the, underground, and then finally the photovoltaics on the roof. So those are kind of the 3 big components. So all of that together is what gets us to net zero.
Can I ask you a question on 3A and 3B?
Yeah.
So first of all, I just want to clarify, there's a big committee, so don't rush for one person. I can
Okay,
watch it,
yeah,
that's not fair to
we can
you.
go back through
That's
it.
not fair to you. That's why I'm gonna jump in when I can, and then when I have to leave, I get a 6:30, I have to leave. Just 2 clarifications. Clarification 1 is that by going to a 3rd story, we're only reducing the footprint by 1,600 square feet. Am I reading that correct?
not the footprint, the overall
the
gross square
overall-
foot.
the overall
Right,
square
right. Because
footage.
we're not reducing the program.
Yeah. Right.
We're only
We're just,
reducing the.
so we're only reducing the square footage by
Except for the
1,600 square
fitness.
feet.
Yeah.
The fitness took 1,000.
Right.
Okay. And then the second confirmation, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right, is that the difference between net zero and non-net zero is the community would lose about $2 million of reimbursement if we went to net zero. Am I reading that correctly? So it says estimated ride reimbursement on a 3A is 19.4 million, estimated ride reimbursement on 3B is 17.4 million. So by eliminating net zero, we lose
I
$2
think
million.
that's at 4% that we no longer qualify
Yeah,
for.
we don't get the 4%.
Right, so we lose about $2
We get
million.
that add-on
So
above.
what happens, and it's a bit of a calculation, we actually looked at that. Because of the higher percentage for net zero, your net zero becomes, like, and how the reimbursement works. Oh no, I'm gonna confuse myself. So, there is with the net zero option, even though it costs you 6.1 or 6.4 million,
Yep.
it's actually going to cost you 4.1
Right.
million because of the
Reimbursement.
percentage.
So the bottom line is that,
You're
net
actually-
zero will cost the community 6.4 million more, of which we'll receive about 2 million in reimbursement, versus non-net zero, which will save the community about 6 million, but we lose about 2 million in reimbursement because we're saving the 6
Yes,
million.
you are correct. And when we did check, we did look at it.
Thank you.
And then there's other non-reimbursement incentives that we're looking into as well.
Right. Plus there are others, like the potential rebates and things that will be available for net zero option, so that number might actually get better.
You're not talking about the federal rebates, are you?
We're not talking, that's why we didn't put anything.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the IRA, we're not
Yeah, it's Rhode Island
anticipating.
Energy
Yeah,
type things.
we don't know that would be available. And so, we keep,
Yeah, I got
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
Yep, just tell me, just tell me.
So those are the 3A and 3B. 4A and B would be looking at adding, on the site, adding additional square footage to the building to serve pre-K. So in this case, our cost of the building obviously goes up, we're building more building, but the eligibility also goes up. Because we'd have 150 more students in the building than we did if we were just going with the base of 400 students. So that was something that came up with some discussions with RIDE. I think, again, that's not RIDE's decisions, that's your decision, but we did look at it just to see how.
So another clarification.
Yeah.
Because I was at the RIDE meeting, so I misunderstood it differently. What I mean by that is that under option 2, and you don't have to go back, under option 2, we thought of increasing our enrollment to over 500 in order to maximize our reimbursement. We're gonna increase our enrollment by 125 or 150 within the existing footprint in order to maximize our reimbursement. That's something RIDE was looking for. Yet, and then the answer was, well, maybe we could put pre-K there to meet the same demand, but yet, on option 1 and, on option 2, you're increasing the enrollment by 125, but the same footprint. But then on option 4, you're increasing enrollment by 150, but you're increasing the footprint. That wasn't RIDE's intention. RIDE's intention was to put more people in the existing footprint to maximize our reimbursement, not to increase our costs. I was at the meeting, that was not their intention, so I'm not saying you can't do it, but you're taking their idea of adding pre-K and you're building a whole nother building. That's not what they said.
So one thing about that, Ralph, is that true. However, that move, what we're talking about is moving additional kids into that same program. Those kids would be coming really from no other place than the other middle school. So educationally speaking, we're looking at relocating kids now from Davisville over to
No,
Wickliffe.
pre-K.
He's
I
talking about the
understand
pre,
that.
the pre.
But what, I know that, no, I know that. I'm saying what you're comparing the two of them, right? Because obviously with a pre-K, you can't put pre-K kids in would need a separate space.
I agree.
I'm saying if you're adding kids to the same footprint, kids of the same age,
Yep.
educationally that's going to
Completely
difficult.
understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Adding pre-K to a 6, 7, 8, and this is your expertise.
Yeah.
Adding pre-K to a 6, 7, 8, and adding 5th grade to a 6, 7, 8 is apples and oranges. And again, you know that better than anybody. What I'm saying is that the meeting that I was at, I definitely left that meeting with them saying, find a space for pre-K within your existing footprint, and that will maximize reimbursement. There's no way they thought that we would have to build a whole nother wing, because that makes no sense.
So
That
if
makes
we-
no
so
sense,
if we
because we're
were-
maximizing reimbursement, but it's costing us another 20 million, that doesn't make any sense.
So if we
You're
do that,
eligible.
we're taking away programming for the middle school.
Right.
I agree, I don't disagree with any of that, all I'm saying is that I understand where you, again, I'll leave that to, I have complete confidence in the 2, 3, and 4 of you. What I'm saying is that option 4 is something we wanna look at, that's fine, but that is not meeting RIDE's direction. RIDE did not say, when they said put pre-K or some, or sixth grade or something else there, they meant put it within the existing footprint, not build a whole nother wing, because again, it doesn't make any sense, because we're increasing our reimbursement, we're increasing the price of the building by
Almost 20 million.
It just doesn't make, it's not what
And
they
if,
were.
and if we do exactly, if
Exactly.
we do exactly what they said,
Yep.
we're losing educational programming for the middle school. So
I
we're
agree
trying to
with you.
show, like, we're trying to take in consideration of things they told us to do, right? They also said, they said, what other educational programs can you bring to your middle school? They referred back to the 5 to 8, which was already looked at.
Yep.
So, when
Yes, it was.
Kelia was here as the consultant, so Kelia Cantor is now at RIDE as one of the reviewers. She was the consultant here that did the original master facility plan, and that was one of the options they were looking at. That option was not favorable with the community, bringing 5th grade in.
You are
And I
correct.
remember that very clearly, because that was my first month here as superintendent,
Mhm.
and people were not happy with that plan. And so, that 5th grade, that option, right, was not something that people were in favor of. So we said, okay, well, we can look at the preschool. But trying to put the preschool in that current footprint, we would be taking away from the middle school program.
Again,
And
please
not only
note-
that, but I would have concerns with a preschool within the same footprint as a.
As would I, I'm not an educator, as would I. All I'm saying is that I don't want us to think that we're doing this to meet the intentions of RIDE. I think, there's no way RIDE thought that we're gonna build a whole nother footprint. And again, I agree with all of you on both that front and the front of increasing the enrollment to 550, because as I said at that meeting, now we're just making DMS disadvantaged. It makes no sense. The community didn't want one middle school, they're very clear. So I'm not criticizing the option. All I'm saying is that
And adding-
the meeting I left was, I don't think they wanted us to build a whole other wing.
And adding, and keeping the 525, like we said, now has an impact on Davisville.
Absolutely,
Right, so
which
if
I
we
was
keep,
concerned with.
right,
We
so
all
if we
were.
keep that's having an impact. So when they said to us, look at increasing the student population, that was what we did, and that's what we brought
Mm-hmm.
back there to them. It does allow for more of the cost to be eligible for reimbursement, but it has a negative impact on Davisville Middle School now.
Definitely.
Which is
And
not
one-
best for the community.
And one last thing that I've learned, because I know I have to leave in a few minutes, but I want the committee to hear this. One last thing that I've learned, and if I'm wrong, please let me know, is that, we're adamant about getting the entire footprint at 35% reimbursement, and I am thrilled about that. But something I never knew is that most school construction within the state of Rhode Island, their entire project does not get 35% reimbursement. So that's, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. There's something I've learned over since the RIDE meeting. Like, I left that RIDE meeting saying we need to get 35% of this full project. And then I talked to other mayors and managers, and you find out, no, it's very, very common for a $60 million building to get 35% reimbursement on $50 million of it. That's very, very common.
You mean having some ineligible?
But regretfully, we ran our projections at getting 35% on the whole thing.
Right.
Because that's what we were advised to do. So again, I would walk in here prior to that saying we need to get 35% on all of it, but after talking with individuals, again, the superintendent and whatnot, it's obvious that communities don't get 65%. So I know one of the members of the public said, we need to make sure we get 35% on the entire building. And I felt that way too. That doesn't happen statewide, and so I never knew that.
Right, and we would have to, in order to get 35% on that entire cost, your square footage has to be at that 592, which is how they calculate the eligible cost.
Yes,
And
which
you are correct.
Which is not fair, because they're doing apples to oranges, because you're comparing a school that we're replacing fields and parking on a school that may have been built in another community that has no fields and has no parking. It just doesn't make sense, but that's a whole other issue.
So and maybe we can just continue talking about this before you have to leave, Ralph. Option 3,
Maybe we should go
which,
back.
yeah, go back to option
So just
3.
the only difference between 4A and 4B, they both have pre-K added, but they're just the net zero or not. But I think we're circling back towards these 3.
Well, because, Rick, so if we look at option 4, and I'll just talk about that, it's gonna cost more money, right? Adding
I think he
on.
just wants to look at 3A.
Wait, 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 wait,
Well,
sorry.
I'm just saying, so option 4, right, so if we look at that, right, so it's adding on to the building, it's providing a space for the preschool. However, it's going to cost us more, and it's $5.5 million higher than what we said we were building the middle school for, and that's $5.5 million that would not be going to CIP projects. That is not the direction we want to go.
Correct.
If you look at option 3, option 3 is the 6 through 8 middle school, right? So we're going back to what originally we were looking at, 6 through 8 with 400 students. Having it, redoing the design so it's a compact design, having the 3rd floor, so this is everything that Rye has been, told us that they wanted to see. You went into the design, you took away the curtain wall, you changed out some of the materials that we're using, we decreased the amount of, the timeline for the builds, and we did all of that, and that brings the building cost down to 68.9 million. So we went from 77 million down to 68.9 million. Of that 68.9, 49.8 is what is eligible for reimbursement, and that would give us $19.4 million back in reimbursement. And so, and the local share on that, which would be coming from the bond, is the $49.5 million.
So I think.
In addition to, I'm sorry.
No, I think an important point that you should make, though, and I want to, is that, look at, you probably.
No.
Is that, for the public, really, is that the local, while the local cost of the town is down almost $8 million. Because when you look at the last 2 line items, again, I'll leave that to you, but on option 1, the cost of the town is 57.6 with a 19.4 reimbursement. Under option 3, it's a 49.5 with a 19.4 reimbursement. The town has saved $8 million on the 2 options.
And there's 8 million that goes back to CIP projects. So we just gained $8.1 million on CIP, and that entire 8.1, because it's for CIP projects, you get 35% reimbursement back on that. And depending how those projects are packaged together, there could be energy efficiency incentive that goes into that with the CIP projects. So we just gained another $1 million for CIP projects, and we know there were CIP projects that we said, for example, the building management systems inside the buildings, we would need additional funds to do that. We just got that, because that was just around $4 million. In addition to that,
any number of projects that we
it could
could
be
use
any,
$1 million
but I'm just,
for.
what I'm saying is like,
That's a
when
good
we go
example,
through the
but-
list, and we talk about what we're doing. like,
Anytime we
that's
save,
there.
this is
So-
terrific.
So that, to me, looking at option 3A, goes back to what Ride had asked us to do. We got the cost down, we brought the reimbursement up, we got the cost down on the local share, and we have money to move into CIP projects.
So before I leave, 2 questions. Question number 1 is, are you, the administration, recommending one option over another?
That's
As-
something, we'd like to discuss that tonight.
Yes.
But is this something that you are going to recommend to the committee?
So my
I know.
recommendation as a superintendent, looking at this, would be to go at option 3A. Because you're still getting the net zero as well, so you're getting the 39% reimbursement on that
Which
entire
would lead
project.
to my second question, and I probably should know this. Once I leave, I don't believe I cannot cast a vote.
Correct.
So.
But would you like to share? I mean, your thoughts are important.
Of course, no, thank you. So,
So we could try to do a vote before you leave.
sure, yeah, I left 5 minutes ago, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna
That might be
have
tough.
to call Chief Irvin and get an escort. I have a 6:30, that's okay. Again, my thoughts are, my initial thoughts are that when looking at this, I prefer option 3A, but I would have felt differently if the administration felt differently. I have enough confidence in you that if you said, I'm in favor of option 1 or option 4, I'd want to take a second look at that. But being that you had just said that you're in favor of something that internally I already liked, I feel very comfortable. So based on my initial feelings walking in, based on some of the questions that were just asked, and based on the fact that I just heard that the administration, whoever that may be, is in favor of 3A, that without question puts me very comfortable with 3A, so.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks, Ralph.
So I'm gonna make a motion that, the committee, I'm gonna put a motion that the recommendation that we move forward with, for architects as well as bringing forward to school committee is that, we move forward with option 3A as our design.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, can I just have a little more, like, we didn't kind of gloss over, what are the changes? You got those highlighted there, but what are the specific changes? That's a pretty significant drop, $8 million.
Yeah.
That you
Sure,
took out
we
of
can
it,
go-
so
yeah,
I'd like to know
absolutely.
what made
So
up
as I
that
said,
$8 million.
programmatically, the only thing that's different was a reduction in the fitness area. So otherwise, number of classrooms and all that stays the same.
And size is the same, obviously?
Yes,
Same for
yes,
me,
yeah, so, right, the net program stays the same. We get a little bit better proportion of corridors and circulation space and things like that that help us get the building a little bit smaller. You know, to be honest, you know, a big chunk of that is reducing that fitness area. That was 1,000 square feet, and that's 1,000 of the 1,600 we saved. The third story did, so going to a smaller footprint and up a floor did save a little under $1 million, I think. So that helped. What are some of the other?
Curtain wall.
Curtain wall. Yeah, so the exterior wall, we had a lot more curtain wall, which is the big expansive glass, like that the high school has a lot of curtain wall. We reduced that to just at the entries and went to windows instead. As I said, the perimeter outside wall of the building is a very expensive part of a building, so that helped us a lot.
And the flat roofs. we don't
Right,
have big
yeah, so we
windows.
don't have pitched roofs, we have flat roofs.
The intricacies of the exterior.
Yes,
What?
yes, so,
FF&E.
Yep.
okay, I'll take I'll go with the, I'll take that one first. So the less corners we have, the better, right? Because corners cost more than a straight line, so, by simplifying the building, that does save, that saves on footings and foundations and so forth. We moved things from, we didn't take them out of the project, but we moved them to FF&E. So the state has a set amount of FF&E that is part of the project that they recognize. So so that was a way of shifting it out of the base and into the FF&E. Again, it's about the eligibility thing. So that helped us. There's a dozen smaller things that we look at, you know, reducing tiles, reducing, you know, finishes and things that aren't, you know, aren't kind of mission critical to the project. They're more in the nice to have category, so we took some of those reductions. We did take, we are looking at the potential for savings if we go to one of these other procurement
Actually, this does
methods.
have a GC in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, now this is from our cost estimator, felt that design build was a complicated equation and was hard for them to put a line item to, but they were seeing across the state and probably beyond Rhode Island, I forget the percentage, but there's about a $3 million savings to go to the lump sum GC method versus the CM at risk. I know that we're the architects on Bristol Warren, which is out to bid now, and they went to the lump sum over CM at risk because of that saving. You know, so those are some of the things that were.
So did this total square foot only reduced a little bit, but how about the, like, footprint square foot? Is that, what is?
Yes, that's much smaller than.
So
we have
that
a
leaves
slide
more
that-
space for just open areas, or you
Yeah,
have to,
oh,
like,
absolutely.
not have, get
Yeah.
congestion with
We
the
have
fields
some images
before?
here that we can.
I think we have
So-
one that shows an outline of
Yeah.
the original, of the original submission.
Tell me to stop, just,
Yeah.
You're going the wrong way.
am I going the wrong
I
way?
think he's going, is he
Oh,
going
yeah,
the wrong way?
okay.
We're getting into, no.
Oh.
Yeah, we actually don't have the overlay,
Okay,
but I.
but I can describe it. So all of this green area was building,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, that's pretty significant, right? You can see a field here, right, in terms of, oh, I'm sorry. So this area here, there was building here, right, because it was spread out over 2 floors.
So there's a lot more green space
Okay.
available.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's green space for the building or future additions to buildings, lots of good things about that.
So it looked like you put more of the classrooms towards the front of the building and the louder parts at that far entrance.
Yeah,
right?
also
So-
because with the long span spaces like a gym, we don't want to build over that. That's
Right.
kind of, we lose our savings when we do that. So the sort of what we call kind of the big box spaces are set aside, and then the classroom bar is a very efficient organization. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
So what exactly is the motion? I'm sorry, I just wanted to get it right.
So the motion is for, my recommendations for the building committee to approve option 3A as the design for our architects to move forward with, and what we would recommend to the school committee as part of our stage 2 addendum to RIDE.
Can I just add something for the public, because I think in addition to what Dr. Duva was saying about the 5th through 8th option, I know that I've received a bunch of emails on that, I've spoken with a bunch of parents about that, and I just wanna add my 2 cents on the fact that I did think long and hard about the 5th through 8th option. Full disclosure, my daughter would be probably, well, I think, yeah, she'd also be in 5th grade at around that time. So I looked at it from a personal point of view, I looked at it from what would be good for the district. And there were a few things that I just found out through research that I don't think it would be a good idea. So I don't want you to just think it was just something that, you know, we said, oh, people didn't like it a couple of years ago. There were some issues, like for instance, if we take 5th grade out of, for instance, Quidnesset, right? Now you are well below capacity. And I don't know if the RIDE would not appreciate that. Making one building lower in capacity than another building, we'd still have to reconfigure all the buildings. Again, going back to 2016, there was in fact a study done, and I understand that the other study was with Davisville Academy, things had changed, but this was done by NSDEC as well, and it was a third party who looked into building capacity and usage, and they also came up with the same idea that 5th through 8th, basically because of building capacity for the 2 middle schools, wasn't going to be possible, and the programming wasn't going to be beneficial to the student's education. So there was a study that looked into it. Even though it was almost 10 years ago, nothing has changed in terms of the buildings that exist and the programming that we'd use currently. It would be the same thing. So those are a couple things. Let me just see if I wrote something else down. But most importantly, if we take away from some of these elementary schools, we are then almost too much below capacity. And I just wanted to add those 2 points that I don't think the 5th through 8th grade wasn't really thoroughly looked into. I think there were some very good reasons why it just wouldn't be the best option to put out there.
Thank you for adding that.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Do life cycle costs enter into this?
I'm sorry, ma'am, this
we
is
can't
not
do
the
that.
time for a question. Is there any further discussion among the board? There being no further discussion, I'll put it to a vote. Those in favor of the motion, raise your hand, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being no opposed, motion passes unanimously. Okay. Our next item up is.
Parameters of evaluating stations. That was.
That's right. You want to talk about that? Parameters of evaluating?
Because, to be honest, because everything changed from during, like, yes, I don't know, I can skip it, table it, do we have to do anything about it?
No, we can leave it there, we'll
That was
table it when it
fine.
comes to discussion. So, we require another motion because we are now gonna consider item number 4 on your agenda. Actually, it was already voted on, so 4 is the last item on our agenda. That would be building subcommittee housekeeping. And that was put there by myself. I just wanted to talk about the committee that we have here. And the committee that we have seated right now, I know there's some folks that are brand new to the committee, like me, and some other folks that have been here for an extended period of time. Having gone through, as I mentioned before, 5 years of the East Providence build, and I can absolutely say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are about to wade in to one of the toughest things that this committee will do. It is intense, it is arduous, there are long hours, there are lots and lots of meetings. And with that in mind, I would ask this committee to think to yourself right now whether or not you're up for this, because we're talking about 4.5, 5 years worth of hard work that's gonna affect this community for a long time. So if you're not up for that, I would ask you to have a conversation with myself or Dr. Duba and talk to us what your thoughts are. If you are up for it, fantastic, that's great. There have also been comments about potentially adding community members to that. That will be discussed between myself and the committee members at a later date, not for discussion right now, but it is what I think a credible idea that warrants discussion. So that is not out of the realm of possibility, okay?
Chris, can you mention along with that for people who don't know that there are very specific people who have to be?
I have that in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Would you, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So as we, embark on this of looking at the membership, our, the school committee policy on advisory committee says members have to be on for 2 years, so you're on for a 2-year term. So everyone on this committee has been on this term, mostly everyone, for 2 years or more. Because, so we're looking now is to update that. So of the members of this committee, there are certain members on this committee that have to stay on, and then everyone else is subject to leave. You can choose to stay on, but what we will do is we will put out a submission like we do at all our advisory committees, asking for people to apply, and then I will go through that list and make a recommendation to the school committee. It's not something that would come to the building advisory committee, it's something I make a recommendation to the school committee. So according to the school construction regulations, the school building committee must at a minimum consist of 8 people. So a minimum of 8. Of those 8, it includes the superintendent of schools, at least 1 member of the school committee, the local official responsible for building maintenance, which would be our facilities director, a representative of the office or body authorized by law to construct school buildings in the municipality, that would be our town manager, the school principal from the subject school, a member who has knowledge of the educational mission and function of the facility, a local budget official or member of the local finance committee, and at least 1 member of the community with architectural, engineering, and or construction experience to provide input relative to the effect of the project on the community and to examine building design and construction plans for reasonableness. So we will be putting out a request for members to, for people in the community to to apply to be members. We'll also be looking to make sure that all of these positions here are filled by reaching out, and we can recruit as well for some of these positions.
And to clarify, the principal of the school, would that also, actually, now that I think about it,
So
would that
this-
also include the CIP projects?
Yes, so essentially, every
Right.
principal would be involved. So we don't need to have every
Okay.
principal on the committee. It says.
No, I know, but if you, I'm
Right.
just,
So it does say the school principal from the subject school. So I think we wanna make sure that we at least have with the Whitford Middle School principal.
Right.
But we also want educators. It doesn't ask for educators. I mean, actually, what it does say is someone that has experience with the mission of the facility. Educators know the mission of the facility. But we want to expand that to, I would suggest, include more members that are working in the schools, to be honest. There's also a suggestion to try to get parents on here. And I would agree that we try to get some parents and other community members on here as well. So,
But they have to realize what they're getting into.
yes.
That's important.
and with the understanding that the bigger a committee becomes, the more difficult it becomes to make decisions. You do not want to have to be including every single,
Yeah,
parent from
everything.
every single.
Is there a maximum?
there isn't, but that is something as a committee we can discuss of what we think would be reasonable.
Interesting.
So, because also too, you have to remember, we have to get a quorum. So if we say, oh, we'll put 30 people on here, now you have to make sure that you're getting 16 people
Every meeting.
that are here at
yeah.
every meeting. So, you know, we don't wanna say keep it to 10, but we wanna make sure that we are definitely, this committee is represented, and we have members on this committee that are going to be able to really look at the work that we have to do moving forward.
Also, with that in mind, Kenny, I'd like to start instructing our secretary to take roll, so we know who is coming to the meetings. Because if you're on the committee, but you're not showing up, see ya, thank you.
Well, we have something in there actually.
Yeah,
in
so
the
there is.
policy.
It's in the
After
policy.
after two
there is.
missed without an
Yeah.
excuse.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Unexcused absences.
I get to decide.
Yeah, at the discretion of the chair.
That's a different policy. Is it? Say
Excuse
that?
don't count.
So you can actually have voting and non-voting members.
We could, I mean, we could,
So
we
you
could
can
say
have
that's
your
something
voting
we do as well.
members, so you have your quorum, that's what the quorum is based on. But I've been on committees that have voting members and non-voting members, so the non-voting members come at the discretion and they're not the quorum, but they do participate in conversations.
Thank you, yeah, that's.
Yeah, and also too, I think it's important to mention, as while we're talking about building membership, your idea of having a smaller subset of that committee that is available weekly.
I was talking to Dr. Duba and just discussing the potential, because there is so much to decide. Once this project gets running and rolling, what color do you want this? How big do you want that? Where do you want this window? What about this change order? Where do we dig this trench? Those are not decisions that are gonna be able to wait for days and days and days until we meet again. Those are decisions that are gonna have to be made on an immediate basis, so construction can continue unabated, or as at least as smoothly as possible. So,
Question back to Inga, the non-voting members, do they count towards the quorum?
no.
Okay.
They,
So-
they provide opinion.
Right, but they don't count towards the, okay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this subcommittee reports to the school committee.
To the school committee.
So we would have a sub-subcommittee?
Right. And you really just a few people that are available weekly to be able to.
Right. To hash this out,
Move things
come up
forward.
with, you know, plans for this, or at least, you know, items for presentation and discussion. So we're not just going around in circle, around in circle, trying to find our center at this meeting. That can be done on a smaller basis.
And at some point, I think we talked about this at a school committee meeting maybe, but at some point, can we try to figure out a schedule where the building subcommittee comes before
Yes.
the school committee
Well,
meeting?
And so
so that-
you're coming up with, you're bringing up a good point. So moving forward, we need to make sure that we're lining up all of our meetings. Because what's gonna happen, once we get through stage 2 and stage 3 comes and we have all of those invoices coming in. So we have invoices we're gonna have to approve, we're gonna have to approve, you know, approval of bids, of contracts, of, you name it, it's gonna come to us, right? So it's all being paid for through the bond. So it has to come to this committee, then it has to go to school committee, then it has to go to town council, then they get paid.
Right.
So even though the bond has been approved, every payment has to go through each of those steps. So we will need to make sure that we have our meetings scheduled, and we may have to schedule at times 2 a month. I know we have a lot of committees, but this has to take some priority.
Right.
And we will have to, at some point, schedule 2 a month, because we will have to bring all of those items here, approve, and go to school committee and town council.
Well, because we have, these are time sensitive.
Yes.
Like,
Very much
all
so.
of these are time
And
sensitive,
as
they're
we
not.
get invoices, right, we wanna make sure we're paying everyone in
Right.
a timely manner. Or there could be other decisions that are coming forward, but anything that has a financial tag on it, it has to go to town council as well.
Does the contractor have his right to have a clerk of the works, or, I know that was always been a problem on a lot of projects I've been involved in.
Actually, Jack, I can comment on that, Kenny. We put out the RFP for an OPM this week, and those bids are due to us a week from tomorrow. And one of the questions that was asked by the OPM is, will there be, for a portion or all this project, a production manager or a clerk of the works? Our answer to that particular individual was, for the construction of the middle school, absolutely. That should be included in the submission, the cost of that. For the CIP planning, no, we can do that on a negotiated as-needed basis as we move through those CIP projects. So,
Yeah,
okay?
That was
Yeah,
a lot of
that's-
practice between baseball fields
Yep,
and
that's a big
buildings.
idea.
That's always to go to,
Yep.
so
Thank
you don't have
Good
two water systems on the same field.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So are you gonna
Okay.
reach out to existing members to say you need to reapply?
Well, what I was gonna say is,
Or you want them to reach out to you?
they would have to reach out, but I think we need to set a deadline of when are we gonna say, okay, we wanna get the application out there and have that returned back to us, right? I don't think right now is a good time to say, okay, we're gonna change membership. We have the RFQ, the RFP bid, all of that we have to do. Our next meeting is May 7th. I'm thinking June is when we should do the changeover, so then when we come back in July, whoever the members are, start July 1.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's
And
make.
current members can apply back in, right? So we're not saying like, you can't, anyone can say,
Apply,
yeah, I wanna
yeah.
continue, I've been working on this, I'd like to continue, and put their name forward, so. There's nothing in the policy that says you can't do another 2 years.
Yeah, up again, re-up for another
Right.
2.
And I just wanna thank the members that we do have, and I know many of them have been on longer than 2 years, and it could be even longer than that, of, dedicating your time and being on this committee, so thank you.
Okay. So let's set a date, actually, for the reapplication, or the application deadline. Anybody got a calendar in front of them? Hang on a sec.
What is the rule about having to advertise it publicly?
We have to go back to what the policy says, I think it's 2 weeks.
I think it is 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So if we want to start fresh in July,
So right now, our meetings are only go through June, we don't have anything set for the new year. Yeah.
I'd say probably the middle of June, which would give us a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah, our
to
next,
discuss.
our next meeting is May 7th, I would post it after May 7th, let's get through the next, we got some
Okay.
big things we gotta do, and then get this out there,
Okay.
so.
All right, so we can make a decision at the May 7th meeting as to specifically when the deadline for
Yeah,
applying
I
will
would
be.
put that.
Okay?
So I think a good idea
Or,
would
no,
be.
let's not, we're gonna have a lot to do May 7th, let's not have that be part of it, I think we can just,
And then the meeting after that is June 4th.
yeah.
But I think.
What I would say, like, what if we put something out there, like mid-May, let's put it out, because we also wanna make sure we have a school committee meeting to get people through that.
Okay.
So I would say if we were to post, say if we posted May 12th, the deadline would be May 30th, and then the June school committee is when the recommendations go through. Right, those aren't hard dates, but I think that needs to be the goal.
Did you get that, Wendy?
So April 30th, you want the current members to have contacted you on whether or not they're staying?
No.
No.
We're gonna,
No.
what I'm saying is, let's, like mid-May, let's put the request out to the community for membership. And that way by May 30th, so if we do it May 12th, right, by May 30th, they would have to be in by, that's
So,
approximately 2 weeks.
Posted
And then
May
we have-
12th, application deadline
It'll be 2 weeks out from
May
there.
30.
And then that way we have time at a June school committee meeting to make those recommendations, and then July, we start with the new committee
Newly
members.
defined
Yeah.
board.
Right.
So that includes your current members,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, so mid-May, the request is gonna go out to the community, but your application deadline's gonna be May 30th
it
for
would be,
everybody.
it would be 2 weeks, so I mean technically, it would be the 26th.
But that's
26th?
Memorial Day, so
Yeah, so-
we have to go move
Yeah.
later in the week.
So,
So the
Which
last
would
week of
be-
May is when it would be due.
Yep.
Well, what day is that? Let's be very specific here.
that's all.
Well, we don't need a vote on this, so, I think if we,
Okay, all right.
we're posting it May 12th, it has to be out for at least 2 weeks, right? So we could say it's May 28th that it's due,
There you go, I like that.
right? That could be the, I don't, we don't need to,
And just to clarify, there'll have to be some formal application that we would,
yeah, it's
Just
just,
there's a
usually it's
standard.
a Google document that we have certain things that we put requests in, of what that may be. Because we do have a June 3rd school committee meeting, and we have a June 17th school committee meeting. So one of those meetings, we would then submit the membership for approval.
so, I don't know when my term is up, truthfully, I've been on the committee for a long time. So if I would not reapply, would I need to finish my term, or how
So-
would that work?
So Technically, everyone has been on, when I looked, everyone has been on for over 2 years.
Yes.
So everyone's terms are up. It's
Okay,
just
so they're
that-
not like repetitive to your terms, it's like just, okay.
So I would say is everyone that's currently sitting on this committee, your 2 years have been up, and we will, post, and you're welcome to, put in
Reapply.
for it again, but we do need to, because we're past the 2-year mark, so.
But stay until you're replaced.
Yeah, no, you're not going anywhere.
Don't go anywhere
You're
yet.
not going anywhere
Stay
this
until you're
decision's made.
replaced.
You are still on, you're on till
Unless
at
you
least.
decide to stay, then you apply in.
Because we still gotta have a quorum.
Yeah.
All set? We good? That is the last item on our agenda. Kenny just said that the next meeting date will be May 7th. Any discussion about May 7th? We're good with that? Very good. Next item is meeting adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dave, I know you're opposed to the meeting ending, so.
You look very comfortable there.